And a very good afternoon to everybody around the world who is going to be watching us. I'm Nadine Paris, Executive and Leadership Coach and Workplace Mediator.
Hello, I'm Jenny Ling. I'm a leadership development person. I facilitate leadership programs and I work on one-to-one with leaders primarily in schools.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jan Daines. I'm a consultant working with leaders in education and in the charity arena.
Hi guys, my name's Max. I'm a gym owner. I own Maximum Fitness, and my sole purpose is to help motivate, inspire, and create people to become fitter and stronger on the journey to success.
I love the enthusiasm of your voice, Max. Thank you for that. So if I just, before we start, if I just say hello to our friends around the world, and hello to a very special community for us in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi, and hello to Nick Sheriff, who should be with us to this afternoon, but who isn't because he's unwell. So wishing you a speedy recovery.
Yeah,
Nick.
all the best, Nick.
Yeah, all the best, Nick. Yeah.
So why is Max here today? And you know, I didn't know Max until about a week ago. We should declare that Max is Jenny, personal trainer, and Jenny spoke to me about Max, and Max and I and Jenny had a kind of prep time before today. And when I spoke to Max, he said two things, right? So Max talked about the concept of significance. So for me, it was like, wow. And then he mentioned the Karpman triangle, or the drama triangle. And I thought, oh, I have to have Max on my LinkedIn Live to explore those two things, right? And to link it to the topic today, which is all about, you know, positive mindset and well-being. So Max, welcome, and welcome Jenny and Jan. But Max, I'm going to start with you because I would like you to share with the 706 million users of LinkedIn, right? Could you share with us the concept of significance to start with?
The concept of significance, well, I think it's one of your 6 basic human needs. So, you know, we're all very different, but we all have the same needs. So we've got certainty, uncertainty, love and connection, significance, and growth and contribution. And these 6 needs that we have help influence our decisions. So we all have the same needs, but we value them on different levels. So, for example, with the first 2, certainty and uncertainty. Right now, there is almost too much certainty going on in the world to the point where we're a bit bored. We're doing the same thing over and over again. So that's why we've got that need for variety. We need a holiday. But in other areas, there is too much variety. And when there's too much variety, it feels chaotic. You know, and these, like, for example, these 2 needs, you know, we all know someone who goes on holiday to the same destination every single year without failure. And that's because they value certainty more than variety, whereas uncertainty. So there's other people who go to different places in the world all the time because they value uncertainty more than variety. So they're 2 basic needs. And then going back to the significance and love and connection, these are 2 important needs as well. And, you know, so with significance, everyone wants to feel significant. No one wants to feel insignificant. You may not want to be the person where all the lights are shining on you and the crowds are cheering your names, but you certainly don't want to be the person who no one cares about and has zero interest in getting to know. You know, there's a baseline of a need to feel significant on some level for us all. You know, and the other need is love and connection. You know, you are raised on love and connection. We feel great when we feel loved and we're connected to others. You know, it's a really important part of that. And then the last 2 needs are growth and contribution. We need to be growing to feel good, and we need to be contributing as well to feel like we've got purpose. So they all go in together. But, you know, with significance, that's, for me personally, quite a strong driver. It's one of my stronger needs out of the 6. But, you know, we're all different in that area. But yeah, significance is basically just one of your basic human needs, and I think that's why I mentioned it the other day.
I'm just going to say hello to Jenny Plant, and Jenny is a friend of mine. So hello, Jenny, and thanks for listening. And thank you, Nick. I think it's pretty amazing. I think it's pretty amazing. If I have, I mean, whenever I've had a personal trainer in my life, we've never spoken about significance and the drama triangle, which is why I think that your approach is quite fascinating. So. Is significance related to making someone feel good?
Yeah, totally. I mean, like in the sense of, so I feel like significance and the love and connection part go hand in hand. So with our gym, our goal, one of our main priorities is to make sure that everyone who walks through the door feels significant, because 9 times out of 10, you start going to the gym usually because you feel quite insignificant, in the sense of you might not look like the way that you look in the mirror. You might not like the fact that you can't walk up the stairs without getting out of breath. You know, self-esteem usually isn't great, hence why we go to a personal trainer in hope that they can help, you know, install some level of confidence or in a stronger, in a sense of significance. So our job's to really, you know, make sure that we know people's names, we recognize when they're doing great, really to emphasize the wins and to celebrate the fact that, wow, you are actually doing so fantastic. Because a lot of people, you know, go through life and experience more sort of maybe negative talk than positive talk, and I think it takes a confident person to be able to go out the way to say you're fantastic, because not many people do that, you know. So that's what we really pride on at our gym, is to point out the wins and to really celebrate the parts about the person that maybe they don't even recognize, to the point where they create a stronger level of self-awareness so that they can recognize themselves when they're doing well, but also, you know, they just fall in love with themselves in a way that they maybe didn't do before. And I think, you know, when they come in such a vulnerable state, we offer that nurturing sort of
Yeah, absolutely.
parent, if you want to put it that way, by pointing out, you know, what's great about them, and that just helps them create a stronger level of significance. The more significant they feel, the more confident they feel. The more confident they feel, the more competent they become. The more competent they become, the more confident they feel, and therefore, you know, it's just a never-ending circle, really.
There's another aspect to that, Max, because I've been coming now for 4 years, and those of you who know me will know I'm not a natural athlete. But
I bet you did that. Just
What a thing to say. What a thing to say.
It's also about not judging. And I think that for the majority of people, the gym is not necessarily a natural environment. And certainly when I went, you know, if you presented me with a gym on one side and a torture chamber on the other side, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Because to me, I had no knowledge of how to work the equipment, no confidence about how to do it. And working with the ethos that's there, which comes directly from Max, it's very much about ipsative assessment, although, you know, it's probably not something that you would recognize, but it's about you improving yourself. You're not necessarily competing with others. So the lack of judgment along with that significance, and every person who walks in is greeted personally and quite by all the PTs, and not just the PTs, but the what do you call them, apprentices as well. So you do feel that you are part of a club is maybe the wrong word, but something quite special.
A community.
Yeah. A community, yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And you that creating that, and that for me, the strongest thing was the lack of judgment.
Max, can I come in? Is that
yes?
Can I,
yes.
I stopped.
You did. I noticed you stopped. I wasn't sure if you dried up.
Me?
This is really interesting, and I guess you're certainly onto something, aren't you? Because this is a basic human need, whether people realize it or not. And the fact that you are making that one of your key foci, I think is probably one of the reasons why you're having the success that you are. I was really interested in. So I'm from a teaching background, and one of the things I see a lot is teachers who are attempting to make their students feel significant, feel they've done well, but their expectations are too low, and that the danger of that is that there's a hollowness about that. If I do something and it's kind of, I know it's kind of mediocre, and you say, Jan, that's absolutely fantastic, well done, fella, I'm going to go, So my question, which is rather a long time getting there, I understand, so apologies for that, is with the staff, because you'll completely get it, because you're the boss and you're supposed to be there. So with your staff, how do you get them to understand that subtlety with regard to being genuine about that promotion of significance, to avoid that sort of hollow message?
Well, so all my personal trainers were I took them on to our gym based on their social and emotional intelligence.
Right.
For that exact reason, in the sense of, it's very, very hard to transfer an emotion when you don't really understand your own.
Absolutely.
So, a lot of our personal trainers are really socially and emotionally intelligent, and they understand themselves. And when you understand yourself, you can understand others. So, it's a lot easier to give someone something that you have than something that you don't have. And being able to recognize in that person, by using their social and emotional intelligence, what they need in that moment is key. So I'm quite fortunate in the sense of, in the gym industry, stereotypically, it's usually full of narcissistic, self-obsessed people, because really what you're going in there for is to build the way that you look. So, in one aspect, part of the gym is a little bit, what's the word? It's about looking a certain way, because we're all going there to create a certain look or a certain feel. Whereas with our personal trainers, they're not picked based on their talents as, how big and muscular they are or how much they can lift. They're picked on their ability to be able to have a conversation, to be able to spot, developmental areas and know the right tools on how to improve that. So, how I get them to do it is, one, by lead by example, by doing it myself. But two, trusting them. I think a lot can be said when it comes to trust, and a lot of people are. I think if you've got a manager who doesn't trust you, you'll be scared to take potential leaps and jumps. And there's been a lot of times where my personal trainers have come back to me and said, "Oh, this didn't work and this didn't work," and I would always encourage them and be like, "Great, now we found out how it doesn't work. What can we do to make sure it works for next time?" So they're really encouraged to make mistakes, because they're human at the end of the day. But I feel like their emotional intelligence helps them know when the right time is to say, "Wow, that was great," and "Wow, that wasn't." But again, with them tracking the client's progress, sometimes what I encourage them to do is get them to ask their clients, how do they feel about that? So rather than me going to you, "Oh my God, Jan, that was amazing," being like, Jan, how do you think you did that? And getting you to recognize your success is really important. But also knowing what you need to know your clientele. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of something called the love language. Nadine, you probably have heard of the love language, have you?
Yeah.
So like that's a really key fundamental when trying to build rapport with people, because we all, if you speak Chinese, Jan, and you don't speak English, and I'm speaking English at you, you're going to struggle to understand me. It's going to be hard for me to get through to you. So with the love language, we all interpret love in a slightly different way, and that's one of the most I think it's the strongest emotion possible. And I think if you can implement that into your exercise, and that your trainer really genuinely loves you and wants the best outcome for you, that helps build a stronger level of trust. And then it helps you really sort of be prepared, the client be prepared to go the extra mile, because you always go the extra mile for the people who love you and who are able to express that in the way that you receive it, So that's why the PTs get the best out of the clients, because of quite emotionally intelligent. Sorry, that was very long-winded.
Well, it's great. No,
it's a great answer.
I just respond by saying there's massive lessons there for recruitment, because if you think back to the first thing you said to me was about, in response to my question, was about the type of people you recruit, and it was surprising because because you were specifically looking for things that you might not expect to find in the gym.
Yeah.
But you're recruiting to the message. That was great. Brilliant. Yeah. Thank you, Max. Yeah.
Max, is it about 50% of those that you've taken on have had to train as PTs?
More than that. So my personal trainers weren't PTs before they started. They were just people that I'd met who I just instantly believed in, and then obviously they were interested in exercise and whatnot. So Ian, for example, he's the members love him and he's done amazing. But he started by coming to our gym and being a client, and I just remember every time he came in, he had great energy. Social skills were great, and I always felt like when I was around him, I wasn't the only person who was thinking about the conversation. And I thought, and to me, that's a great sign that someone has the potential to be a good personal trainer, is because, you know, if you're the person who's usually stimulating the conversation, if you've got someone doing that to you, then they can do that for someone else who maybe doesn't have the confidence yet to create that stimulation in the conversation. And then obviously, you know, there's methods to becoming a good personal trainer. There's a simple formula really of what you need to do. And then it's just a case of copying and pasting, but making sure that you've got the right person for the job.
You just said something. You said, I instantly believed in, you know, a specific person to become a PT. So how much of your intuition do you use when you are hiring, you know, PT, for example?
It has. I think there's a lot to say about trusting your gut. And you know, like I've had quite a few people who've tried to get the job, and I just feel like I always go with my gut in the end. You know, I wouldn't take someone on who I thought talked the good talk. I have to feel it. You know, again, it's about being able to feel that emotional connection, and I feel like with working in a gym, it's so important to be able to create emotional connections with people, because that builds a stronger level of rapport. And again, rapport is power. You know, you need to have as much power as a personal trainer with your client, because you need the power of influence. You need the power of being able to say, that's maybe not the right decision to make, or the well done, so that you really, you know, get the best, in the same way that you would be if you were any sort of coach. You know, so if they don't really get my emotions firing up, then I wouldn't really consider them the job. But then in another breath, you know, I would be, I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of how I've always gone off it, and so far it's worked out well. And I think, if anything, by doing that, it creates a stronger level of trust from the start, because I'm trusting them and installing belief in them when they have nothing to offer other than just being themselves. And I think with them coming into the job knowing that just being me is enough for me to be here, gives them a good solid foundation of feeling okay with trying things and just, you know, going for it really, because they're not trying to be someone who they're not, which often I think when people go for a job, they put themselves up here, whereas the skill level might be here, whereas my PTs are coming in knowing that they're going to be here, but the excitement of what they could become.
Do you know, that's really smart on a whole series of levels. You know, to have somebody starting a role knowing that they need to learn and train in order to be able to grow into that role, I think is really smart, because it completely sidesteps the whole, well, you've just mentioned it, the idea of someone coming in and, you know, going, okay, here I am, folks, we can sort of start now. So it immediately introduces a level of humility, which I happen to believe is the most number one attitude for leadership. It immediately introduces the idea of their own progress and their own learning, which, what a surprise, is what they're going to promote in the clients, do you call them clients, that they're working with.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, just two examples. That's so smart on in so many ways, Max. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And straight away, going back to the basic human needs, to feel fulfilled, you need to be ticking the boxes of growth and contribution.
Yeah.
So when they're starting, it's like anything. You know, when you first start doing something, you start making progress, and progress equals happiness. So straight away, anything from where they are is progress. You know, from getting the first client to learning how to do X, Y, and Z. So that feeling of progress straight away is, you know, is leveled to happiness. But to feel true fulfillment, if you are growing in an area where you can contribute, that's when you really create fulfillment, because, you know, giving is the start of the receiving process, and they're growing to be able to contribute, which just from experience of just watching them, you know, people fall in love with that pretty quickly.
Yeah. I'm bursting with questions, but I don't want to dominate. Go on.
I was wanting to come in about the apprentices, because it makes me laugh in a very happy sort of way. Is that you go in and the apprentices clean the gym, and these are two boys about what, 18 are they now?
17 and 17.
Who
17.
You know, you plucked them from school. I don't think they had any particular career path in mind, and as they're cleaning the gym, they have headphones on, and they have to listen to podcasts in terms of personal development. And so, you know, you'll have to stop and have a quick chat with them, and this is really interesting, he's saying this and that. So even with the apprentices, he's beginning to develop this culture of learning. And I think, I don't know what the conversations are like with your team behind the scenes, but I know that each one of them has entirely bought into the ethos and the expectations of the gym. There's none that stay the course that don't buy into it, wouldn't you say, Max? And it's not like that you impose it from the top, except for perhaps the apprentices, but the PTs actually say to me, there's been a few new ones recently, and if I say, you know, how are you getting on, they always say it's wonderful, it's the most amazing place, people love to be there because of this ethos that you've got, so both from the client's point of view and from the people who work there as well, which is quite something to achieve when you think, Max, that you're probably younger. I think you are younger than all our kids, and also, you know, we're all ex-head teachers, and we've learned about being leaders, but you haven't gone through university, you haven't gone through formal learning. So how do you establish yourself as a leader, or how do you know what to do?
Good question.
How do you know what to do in regards to being a leader?
Yeah.
Ask the right questions. In the sense of, I think there's always been I'm an only child, so I've always had to be curious. I think curiosity is really, really important when it comes to any sort of anything really. So I think with knowing what the right thing to do with in regards to being a good leader, I wouldn't class myself, I mean, I guess I am a leader, but I wouldn't class myself as a leader, because I would put myself on the same level as my team. And I think it's about walking with them rather than walking in front of them, or if anything, walking behind them, you know. So I'll ask them, what do you think about this? You know, and, you know, maybe if the answer isn't what I think it should be, I would question and be like, okay, convince me, you know, like, you know, what happens in this sense. So I think it's really important when you're trying to, I mean, don't get me wrong, I could totally improve. We can all improve, but you know, I definitely would like to improve my leadership skills. But I feel like the way I do it is by talking to them on a level, and I feel by doing that, you know, really befriending them. And there's a big thing about that in business, and everyone's like, don't be friends with them, you know, makes it difficult and stuff. But I think the deeper the connection that you have with the people that you're working with, the more prepared they are to go out the way to help you, in the same way that you are for them if you've got a deeper connection with them. So, you know, really, I just make sure that, you know, one, I do value their opinions. Two, I'm interested to find out what their views are. And three, I guess, you know, you got to go with your gut. I've been in this sort of industry for 15 years now. 15 years? No, 10 years. 10 years. So, and, you know, I've seen a lot of good managers, a lot of poor managers, and I feel like the correlation with the bad ones is usually lack of communication and lack of interest. I remember I was the top selling personal trainer in the country for Nuffield Health. And my general manager had maybe 3 conversations with me whilst I was at that gym. You know, no one had ever sold as many PT sessions as I had done. I think it was the most underperforming gym in the country. And when I went there, within the first 3 weeks, I'd made it the top performing in that area. And he only ever pulled me up when there was something wrong going, or he only ever, you know, it just made me feel insignificant. I was never recognized for, not that I was doing it for, I was trying to build my own career really, but I didn't feel significant in regards to what I'd brought to the table, because I really had brought a lot to the table. And, you know, so I learned from that it's super important to celebrate your co-workers' achievements, which I think builds a stronger bond, which again, like, who doesn't love to be celebrated and told, wow, that was amazing. And, you know, especially when you've put in some hard work. So I think that has led me to becoming a stronger leader. Again, it's just emotional intelligence, I guess. That's kind of what it boils down to.
Just Mark Ryan's come in here, just says, I want to hear Max speak more. So there you go, Max.
I could talk all day. Just
that's a lovely comment to make, actually, because, you know, we 3 are here, and we're here each week, and I know Mark's watched us a number of weeks, but for him to come in and say that, you know, it's really valuing what you're saying, Max.
And I think I think we can interpret that in 2 ways, and they're both valid. One is in this session, and another one, let's get you back, and let's do more sessions. Yeah.
Max, I want to talk about the positive mindset, because I mean, of course, at the moment, you know, coming back to this world in which we are at the moment, there are a lot of people out there who are tired, exhausted, burnout, stressed, you know. And the focus on this particular LinkedIn Live was about, you know, growing a positive mindset to boost your well-being. So how do you do that? Because, you know, you didn't know anything about COVID-19 like us, actually, and you've had to adapt and probably create, you know, speak to clients, you know, that language that you say you are using, a different language, okay?
Yeah.
How do you, I mean, when people are low, right, really low, how do you pick them up so that they can, as you say, you know, progress towards some kind of goals and change their mindset so that they are not focusing on the glass is half empty, but the glass is half full, given the context in which we are at the moment in the world? How do you do that?
Well, in regards to how would I work, if I had someone in front of me right now, how would I get them from through? I would match their energy initially and hear them out so they would feel heard. So I would let them say what they needed to say so that they felt heard, and then they knew that I was there to not just, you know, pump them up, you know, and I would need to become almost very much like them initially to build a stronger level of rapport so that they would feel more open to hearing me, you know. So if you've got someone who's like really down, there's nothing to do, the world's terrible, blah, 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 and I'm like, the world's great, everything's amazing, you know, I'm not mirroring their, you know, because 7% of communication is verbal, so we're missing out 97% of communication to build rapport. So I would probably mirror the body language, probably talk in a very similar way, and slowly start to introduce questions. You know, so if someone's like, oh, it's just so hard at the moment, you know, I feel like I've tried everything, I can't seem to get it to work, you know, I'd be like, well, you know, I've got an idea, but, you know, I need your advice on it first. You know, what do you think about this? You know, and they'd probably be like, I like this guy. But, you know, if I was like, you need to do that, you just got to match a mirror. And I think first, initially, make them feel heard. Secondly, ask them questions, because a lot of people right now are in a victim mindset. Life's happening to them rather than for them. And, you know, and I've been through this multiple times. Today, I took myself out because I feel I lost a few members today. A few people have cancelled because we're very lucky at the moment. There's lots of people continuing to support the gym. But a few people cancelled all at once, and it's like a feeling of rejection. And rejection is quite a painful feeling, and so I could feel it sitting on me, and I was seeing things not for how they were, but worse than they were. And that's quite often, I think, what we do is we don't see things how they are.
Yeah.
So I took myself out and I went surfing because I knew that motion creates emotion. I knew that I needed to change the way that I moved to influence the way I was feeling. But the whole time I was out there, the surf wasn't very good. It was really choppy. I was tired. I was like, oh. I was beating myself up, and I had to stop myself. And this is going back to how would I pick someone up. I'm going to use myself as an example. I had to stop myself when I was in the middle of the sea getting bashed around and said to myself, right, what do I want my outcome to be? How am I feeling today to start off with? Right, I'm feeling low. I'm feeling rejected. I feel sad. And I was like, right, okay, do I want to feel this way? And I was like, no, I don't want to feel this way. I was like, right, okay, how do I want to feel? So I found out where I was, and then I decided where I wanted to be. And then I needed to bridge the gap. So how do I get there? And how you get there is by quality questions. If you're getting poor quality answers at the moment, it's probably because you're asking poor quality questions. So I was like, how do I want to feel? And I was like, I want to feel happy. I was like, right, okay. What do I need to do to feel happy? And I was like, I need to stop dwelling. And I was like, why am I dwelling? And I was like, I feel rejected. I was like, why do I feel rejected? And I went down that route. So I heard myself, and I was like, right, okay. If I keep, that's happened now. What's happened? That bit of rejection has happened. They're cancelled. Doesn't feel great, but it's happened. And no matter how much I spit me to my heart and feel this feeling, I can't change that now. I just have to not dwell and accept a lot of what's going on. We need to focus on accepting. And I think right now we're focusing so much on what we've lost that we're actually, where you look is where you go. And we're focusing so much on what we've lost that we're not really accepting, and that's not allowing us to move forwards. So, this morning, I'm the difficult person who I'm trying to pick up. I just need to hear myself first, or hear them. I need to find out what I want the outcome to be. And then it's about finding the solution of how we get there. And knowing that you don't always get the answer straight away. You have to be really tenacious when questioning yourself or others until you get the answer that you want. So I was like, I want to be happy. And I was like, well, what do I need to do to be happy? And straight away in my head, I went, I don't know. And I was like, no. Well, if I did know, what would it be? And I was like, well, maybe I need to focus on some things that make me feel good. And then I started focusing on things that made me feel good. And then I was like, right, okay, what's great about my life? And then started to really focus on gratitude, because you can't feel bad when you're in a state of gratitude. So I was trying to focus on that, but I still couldn't get it to link. But that's because what I was thinking and what I was saying in my head wasn't matched with the same intensity as my body language. You need to make sure that if you want to change your emotional state, that you need to change your focus, but you need to also radically change your physical, the way you are. It's really hard to be chuffed and full of energy when you sat there like this.
Yeah.
And it's very, very easy to feel down and depressed when you're like this, because you've got to make sure that your body language matches your thoughts. So straight away, what I did was, when I was in the water, still getting bashed about, chest up, started moving with energy. And I was like, what's great about my life? And I was saying out loud, I was like, I love my girlfriend, I love my dogs, I love the fact that I'm in the sea, I'm safe. And I was saying everything that I love whilst moving, totally on my own, and then suddenly my mental state started to change, caught a wave. That was brilliant. Well done, Matt. Started giving myself some positive, feedback. And as I've done that, I've kind of tricked myself out of that state of dwelling of, oh. So to answer your question, how would I get someone to pick themselves up? I would hear them. I would help them decide what they wanted. And then I would get them to find out the solution to getting there, but also get them to match their physical with their mental. And then over time, getting them to do that habitually. Because I think habitually we go into negative states of mind. And that's just a habit, just learned behavior. It doesn't have to be that way. But sometimes I think we think it does.
It's fascinating what you're talking about. And when I go up to Newcastle to see Jenny, hopefully I can meet with you, Max, and you can give me you can be my personal trainer for a few hours. I'd love to be put through that, actually. I'd love to be put through that. I do have a question, because you're not doing face-to-face at the moment in the gym, are you? No. Okay.
It's all on the screen.
Yeah. So you're online through a screen? Okay.
Yes.
So how different is that in terms, if I saw you face-to-face and if I saw you online, so what's going to be different?
Can I start to answer that before you answer that, Max? Because I'm on the receiving end of this. And I'd like to give my perspective on this before you come in. And I have to say that doing it face to face is completely knackering. Doing it on the video was completely knackering. And the reason it took me a while to figure it out is because you can imagine, knowing me and knowing Max now, how much we talk. So, when you have your 60-second burst and then you have 60 seconds rest in between, it can quite often go into a number of minutes because we get really involved in what we're talking about. But when you're on face to face, it's much harder because you don't have the same chit chat. You can still talk, but it's a little bit less personal. Now, it could be quite different for other people, but I just wanted to put my perspective in there. Max, you do a number. How many people are you doing face to face at the minute?
Not too much. I'm doing
not face to face. Online. I meant online.
I'm doing about eight sessions a week. So not anything on what I used to do. Jenny made a good point there. So again, so in Jenny's one-to-one personal sessions in the gym, I know that Jenny loves talking. So again, in that hour,
it's just me that likes talking, Max.
No. I also massively enjoy that conversation. But in the sense that I think right now, so when we're doing the online stuff, I'm kind of probably training Jenny in a different way to how I would usually train her. Simply because I think it definitely interferes with the ability to connect. Sometimes the conversation lags a little bit, so the connection's not as strong, which can impact how in depth you can get into a conversation with someone. So I think it's been a lot harder for some people with doing the workouts because there's been a little less talk. But for others as well, I think a lot of people have really missed that experience of connecting with someone. Because as much of a lot of my clients come for the workout, I think sometimes a lot of them come for a bit of hope. In the sense of I unconditionally believe in people. I feel like one of my strongest talents is recognizing what's great about people. And I think when people come to the gym, again, they end up leaving feeling pretty significant because not through any of I don't go into the session thinking, right, okay, what's great about someone? It just naturally happens. And, I'm very open to expressing how I feel about people. So I think that combined with the movement makes people feel really good. And that's something that's a little bit different at the moment with doing it on the iPad and stuff, is because you don't have, it's a little bit more of a challenge to connect on that level. That's something that you experience in real life, I think.
I mean, talking to you right now, it's quite difficult to imagine that you're a personal trainer. I see you more as a coach, actually. So perhaps more similar to the work that I do. And I'm just sitting here thinking, gosh, if I was with Max in let's say the gym have reopened and we're in a gym and you talk like that, I think I'd be afraid to be absolutely exhausted because I would have spoken a lot to you and I would have also exercised a lot. We all have limits, and I know that our limits can be in our mind, but we do have limits, physical ones, particularly at a certain age, right? How do you make sure that there is a fine balance between, the talking, the conversation where you are connecting, it's a great relationship, and actually, ultimately the clients are there for your well-being, so it's more the physical side of things. How do you make sure that you got the right balance?
Knowing your client. So some of my clients I don't talk to anywhere near as much as I talk to Jenny. But I
Okay.
know that for Jenny, it's a multitude of things. You know, she likes coming for the workout, but she also really likes coming for the stimulating conversation. You know, it's a time during her week where, you know, to me, I feel like Jenny is a really special person, but I really let her know that. And whether or not she recognizes that's, you know, why she enjoys coming, there's a huge part of where she'll feel significant because what she has to say is important. And it is important because I'm learning from it. So she's getting lots of ticks in multiple different areas, whereas some of my clients who turn up are just there for the training, and I'm aware they're just there for the training and they're not there for the conversation. So it just goes back to knowing your client. You know, I think me and Jenny were like 60-40. We're always exercising, but we always make sure that we're, you know, Jenny's passion is learning and coaching. So, you know, trying to add that passion into exercise, which exercise wasn't really a something that Jenny, you didn't go to the gym before working with me, really. It wasn't something that you really were that
I was
keen on doing, was it?
forced to go. If you remember my first session with Max, I was forced to go. I had to take somebody else's place. And I sat there with my body language like this. And this was when I began, within about 10 minutes, to realize just how special Max was, because the questions he asked me, and then he took me through to some of the equipment. So I was there an hour, and I, you know, I was probably in my early to mid 60s when I came to you, Max, and I'd never been to a gym before. And by the end of that 1 hour of predominantly talking, because we sat in that little office and talked for a bit, and you asked me questions, and then went on to the machine. I still wasn't convinced of the machine, but he had changed my mindset within that hour. And my question to you then, Max, if you remember, was, I said, "Are you a trained coach?" Because somehow he was 21 and he had the skills to turn me from being so negative and so lacking in interest into somebody. And I mean, I now go twice a week. You know, nothing will stop me unless I'm in Dubai. But then I realize now in Dubai I can actually do it online, whereas I couldn't before. So Max's ability to do both aspects was very clear from the beginning. And I think that, echoing what he says, we both get a lot out of it. There are certain things he makes me do when I just can't speak. But, you know, so, you know, we get the gaps in between.
But yeah, but like with Jenny said, you know, if you get someone, and you can put this in any area of teaching, for example, and this is what teachers probably should do, and if they did, they would bring the best out of people. I knew that the gym was massively out of Jenny's comfort zone. I could tell by her body language that she didn't want to be there, and she didn't feel she was scared. There was too much uncertainty, and again, that's one of your basic needs. So when there's too much uncertainty, we need to bring in certainty and significance. So I would ask her a lot of questions about what she did, and I was trying to find out what her triggers were, what her passions were. And by getting her to talk about what she was passionate about, because people love talking about their passions or their fears. So by getting Jenny to talk about what she was passionate about and to really, really go into that, not only was it massively interesting, and I was loving that, but it was giving her, one, a bit of certainty because it was putting her focus in an area where she knew. Two, it was something that she was passionate about, so she was focusing on the things that make her feel good, which was starting to even out the seesaw, you know, of not feeling good because I'm in a gym and I don't know what I'm doing and this is scary, to I'm feeling a bit better now because I've got a bit more significance. And then naturally, once we've figured out, right, okay, this is where she feels good at, this is where she feels confident in, now we're in a state, emotional state of feeling confident and significant, and I've got the certainty that I'm okay. When we start introducing things that maybe are going to put me out of my comfort zone, our emotional states are we're in a much stronger position. And that's where a lot of personal trainers go wrong, is they get someone who's massively out of their comfort zone, or teachers massively get a child who's out of their comfort zone and then put them in a position where they're even more out of the comfort zone without having built any sort of confidence. And I can speak from that in my sense, because I was really dyslexic, didn't really know how to read properly at school. 80% of what I did at school was usually the wrong thing. So I'd already turn up in a state of hyper anxiety. So then in a state of hyper anxiety to be given, this is what you're doing today, having not changed my your emotional state will massively impact whether you do a good job or not, you know? So I think as any sort of coach or teacher, learning one, how to control your own emotional state, but two, knowing how to influence your client or student's emotional state too is key to being able to bring out the best in them.
You said earlier on, progress equal happiness, fulfillment equal growth. I'm going to challenge you a little bit on progress equal happiness. I think if you told that to me for who I am, I think I may disagree with you. For me, right? For me, progress isn't always happiness. And I'm thinking, high achievers who always want to do better, for example. I don't see progress necessarily as happiness. I see it as it must happen for me to be even better.
Okay. Have you ever felt bad when progressing?
Oh, I don't necessarily think about how I feel. I think about the future. When you're talking to a high achiever, they think about the next step, right? They're not necessarily in the present moment. How do you cope with people like that?
People who aren't in the present moment.
Yeah, who are, high achievers, always want more. So when you say progress equal happiness, for me, not particularly. Progress equal, that's what I should be doing. It's normal.
Well,
it doesn't make me happy.
Well, I would say if you weren't progressing, would you be happier?
That would be catastrophic.
Yeah, exactly. So for you to be okay, you need to make progress. So I would question that maybe progress does make you happy, because if we were to flip it and watch your life regress, you probably wouldn't feel good. But maybe if you're a high achiever and you're so used to feeling, seeing progress, that puts you on the pathway to start to feel good. If you think of any area in your life when you've made some achievement, you think about your biggest achievement, Nadine, your biggest achievement where you've worked really, really hard, you've had to grow and grow and grow, and then once you've achieved it, did you feel bad? Were you like, oh God, I'm so disappointed that I achieved that? Or you're like, wow, yes, I've achieved that, on to the next thing now?
I think the danger with high achiever is that you don't see it in the moment. You see it perhaps after, but in the moment you don't see it because you're straight away looking at the future. And what else do you do?
Yeah, Max, you're exactly like that. You are exactly like that, Max, because if
I knew you were going to say.
Yes, you remember.
No, right, okay, So I totally agree. And that's not recognizing that you're progressing. So the focus is in the wrong place. So for example, Jenny was going to say, when you opened the second gym, you were still just focused on what you haven't achieved and you didn't feel great. But that was simply because I wasn't recognizing how much progress I had actually made. I was just focusing on what I hadn't done. So if I was to focus on the fact that I had made the progress, it would make me feel good. But the fact that my focus was all in the area where I wasn't, and again, where your focus goes, that will massively influence your emotional state. And if you're focusing on what you haven't done yet and what you don't have, you're probably not going to feel great. Whereas if you were to focus on the little wins and to see those wins, you probably would be like, great. You're not going to feel bad. So how would I get someone to be more in the moment? How would I get someone to be more in the moment? See, this is something that I'm personally trying to work on myself as well. So
remember what we did, Max? Do you remember what we did? I got you when you had the first gym and then you were desperate for the second one, and I was saying, just appreciate what you've got and embed it for a bit. You adored me completely. I went on and opened the next one, which was twice the size, and even then you didn't feel you were successful enough. So I said, okay, walk out that door and walk back in and look at it through the eyes of you when you were 15, when you had
and what that did was it made me realize that I'd progressed. Whereas I totally can understand what you're saying, Nadine, because high achievers, it's a restless feeling being ambitious because you're focusing more on what you're trying to get rather than what you've got. Which sometimes, you know, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And a lot of people, you know, end up being hyper successful and being pissed off and miserable. You know, and so it's really important to recognize when you are making progress. But again, a lot of it goes to your standards. You know, I would say the times where I've made mass progress, initially I might have felt great, but then soon that, you know, it's died, because you've got to always be progressing to feel good. You have to always keep moving forward. If you make progress and then stop, initially that might feel okay, but eventually you're either progressing or regressing. There's nothing that stays still. The world moves on, you know. So I would, how would I get someone to be more in the moment? Again, it's just about redirecting the focus, getting them to recognize how much progress they've actually made. Wow, you were here, now you're here, you know, and getting them to set them goals, the goals themselves. Quite often, like, coaches set their goals for their clients, or, you know, don't actually inspire them to choose themselves what they want. I've never sorry, go ahead.
You've never what? Sorry.
I was going to say, I've never come across anyone who said that they don't feel happy when they're progressing.
Yeah, well, they exist. I'm perhaps one of them, but one of the things that that can be helpful, and certainly that has helped me in my life, has been my children and my friends. My children, who are your age, actually, Max. When they make me stop, and they make me look at what I have for now. And my friends as well, you know, like Jenny and Jan, who constantly remind me of a number of things that perhaps I take for granted. So sometimes the self-talk isn't quite sufficient, or somebody that you don't know isn't quite sufficient. Sometimes it can be family, it can be friends that make you look at things in a different way because they know you. You know, I mean, I totally get when you say the relationship and everything. I absolutely agree with you, but I also think that we never know someone. It's my philosophy in life, but I think we never know someone. The people that will know you best are probably people that are very close to you, you know, because of the history. I mean, my children, of course, you know, they know me very well, but like Jenny and Jan, because we've got history of friendships, you know, we've lived experiences on the other side of the world, and that makes people very, very close. Yeah, I think it's that. And I think it's also, I had a coach actually who she made me at the time. And that was really hard for me, actually. Every night I would reflect on the success, right? So I would have to find, you hear my language, right? I would have to find success, because what was success to people wasn't necessarily success for me. For me, it was, yeah, of course I have done that. You know, I expect Nadine to have delivered that. So I just think that, you know, personal training might be another tool that people can use if they have the right personal trainer in front of them to make you shift that mindset.
You just said an interesting thing as well, there, Nadine, about just going back to, you said you expect that from yourself. And I always say to my clients, if you change your expectations for appreciation, then you'll be one step closer to feeling good. Because whenever we've got an expectation, this goes back to about high achievers, we expect of ourselves to do X, Y, and Z. But if we appreciated when we did, then we would be able to link progress with happiness in that little bit of we'd probably feel that happiness that little bit more so. Whereas for as long as we expect, how many times have you gone to a film expecting it to be funny and then it's not being funny? Or how many times have you know, when you've gone out with your friends on a spontaneous night and you've had the best time ever, so then you've planned months ahead of, we're going to go here for the weekend, it's going to be amazing, oh my God, we're going to have the best time. And then you turn up and it just wasn't what you'd hoped it to be. So that the spontaneous times are always better than the planned times, because there's an expectation and whatnot. But it goes back to, what you were saying about yourself. I expect this from myself, and I can relate to that, because I'm exactly the same. But for as long as we're expecting and not appreciating, I think that's where we'll always struggle to feel happiness with progression.
Yeah. I mean, you've just made me think actually that if I ever work with a personal trainer in the next few months, when I can, then they would have to follow your track actually, and your track record and who you are, to work with me, because I think it's all about choosing the right people to have, if you want to change your mindset, if you want to feel better for your well-being, surround yourself with the people that you will allow them to, to shift your mindset. And you've set the bar very high here today, Max. Because
you're going to struggle to find anyone like me, Nadine.
Absolutely. Well, there's always online. Well, what about online? There you go.
Yeah, no excuse, actually.
There's a challenge for you.
Everything is possible. We've got about 4 minutes left before we come to an end. Jenny, Jan, Max, is there anything, any message, any key message you want to share?
Jan, you were trying to come in, weren't you?
I've been trying to come in for the last half hour, yeah.
Oops.
No. Where's your pencil?
Well, whilst that might be true, don't take it as being a negative thing, because the conversation has been fantastic, and I was very aware of Mark's very wise sentiments there. Let's hear Max a lot. I mean, I've been thinking so many things. One of the things I've been thinking, that the last bit of conversation in particular, I think we could sum up as in three ways. There's a perspective, there's a balance, and there's an authenticity, I think, which comes into progress and being happy with your lot. So if you don't have a perspective on where you are, then you're not capable of seeing the progress that you've made. If you're out of balance with where you're expecting to get, it was your expectation over experience thing, Max. You go to see what you expect to be a funny film and it's rubbish. It's the same with you and progress. And the other thing is authentic. And I think a lot of people fall into the trap of expecting progress to be something it isn't. I mean, well, I mentioned hollowness at the start, actually. And I think there are certain things regarding for example, if people are measuring progress by the amount they earn or by the size of their bank account, those are hollow things. That isn't the way to do that, because you'll never feel that you've got enough, and that's well documented. So it's about being authentic about the things that you're setting as being your goals. Sorry, it sounds like I'm trying to contribute there. But what I was really doing there was trying to summarize the things. That's a bit of conversation, really.
I like that summary, John. Yeah, I like that expectation, balance, and authenticity.
Yeah, and the other thing is, and I really think we need to come back to this, because I think going back to the recruitment thing, we've talked about a trajectory that the people who come to work for you are set out on. Where they're learning and developing, and they feel really good because they're making progress. And then I think we ought to make time to explore the whole idea of how you prevent plateauing, because you can't stay in that trajectory for the rest of your working life. And what'll happen is they'll leave when they begin to, if they sort of level out, they plateau out. So you must have some very smart ways, I would imagine, of dealing with people who are approaching the plateau. They've gone like this, and then wham, there's a whole series of stuff to do with recruitment in there as well, which I think we ought to do.
Make it so good that they don't want to leave.
Yeah. So there's something you're doing, Max. There's something you're doing which you may not realise, but we better tease out. You may realise it. Forgive me, but which I think is a gem there, which people will absolutely want to hear about, and I think we could. Yeah. This has been great. I mean, let's get Max back, as often as you possibly can spare the time.
Jenny, do you want to say something?
No. I'm just so pleased that we've had this time and we've been listening to Max, because we talk so much, and I've wanted to give Max a platform because, to me, he is quite an extraordinary young man with an amazing brain on his shoulders. And for somebody who was seen as as not perhaps being so successful at school, well, yeah, you have got a massive head as well, but without ego. And that's the other thing, is the gym isn't full of egos. Just to quickly bring in Ez Pantash, who's come in, saying leading effectively is a very interesting topic. In my opinion, it's sharing common values, having a clear and agreed upon vision, and giving people the trust and respect they deserve, which is what you've been saying, Max, isn't it? Teaching, coaching, training, and adjusting actions based on feedback is crucial to successful leadership. Thanks, guys, for all the great thoughts.
Thank you very much, Ez. Thank you.
And there are key messages. So I just said there are key messages in here for so many different sectors. Max was referring to teaching and educating pupils and students, of course. And if you think about sports coaching and coaching, and you're in the fitness industry, but they're kind of, there's a massive overlap.
Yeah, because it's leadership.
Yeah, Nadine, yeah, go on.
Yeah, Max, I just want to give you, an opportunity to say the final message and to share with us, if people want to connect with you, how do they go about it?
The final message: the door of opportunity is always open for those who keep knocking. And right now, whilst the doors all still feel like they're being closed, you keep knocking away, keep looking for how you can make it work. Eventually, the door will open. Just make sure whilst the world feels like it's given up on you, just don't give up on yourself. Just keep plowing away. And if anyone wants to reach out to me and get in touch with me, type in Maximum Fitness Newcastle on Facebook or Instagram, and you can get in contact with us through there. Or if you simply just want to enjoy the content that we put out, then watch from a distance, and hopefully you'll be inspired or maybe have a laugh and a giggle along the way.
Thanks so much, Max. Really, it's been we've had a great hour, and we'll continue speaking with you. But time is precious, and thank you very much, Max. And we will have you back again, right? We want to do part two. We want to do part two, and you also need to come on a podcast, actually. But we can talk about that once we're off air. Thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you next week. Just to share that next week we have a very different roundtable, because we've invited some Generation Z young people from universities. So we will have 3 or 4 students, university students, coming to our roundtable with Jenny, Jan, and myself. So I'm sure we'll continue on what we started to discuss today. We'll continue to touch on that next week. But until then, it's goodbye from London. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, goodbye, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Bye guys.